Thanks for coming. And I don't. Maybe we could get closer so I could address you all. Today I want to talk about the reason I'm here and the reason why I'm able to come here. I came here since September 11th to Serrat, and what I did here during the previous 10 or what day is it? 24. So I've been here for 13 days. During these past 13 days, my main task for myself is to type my previous diary, which was written on paper. By transcribing it, I want to organize the previous experience, that my thoughts, my emotion, and the things that happen around me. Since November 2015, my mom had a stroke. When I transcribed the previous diary, meanwhile, I also experienced the presence that feed the experience as well. So when I thought of this mom far away from me, I also collect the materials and my presence surrounded me. So right now, the script that I wrote like 1 hour ago kind of detached from what I'm thinking right now. So I'm start from what I start now. My mom is, when I came here, it's because during the past 3 years, I've been the main character taking care of her. And it gradually became kind of a career for me, kind of a business. And I made it like a business. I have SOP for her caretakers, which is 2 girls from Indonesia. And I have my SOP for buying food in the market. And I have all her schedule of visiting the doctors to do the exams, to put all the information together and set up a schedule and the form that everybody regarding this whole process could just do what he or she needs to do instead of worrying about anything else. So at this moment, I would like to share this system. So I created, you can come closer if you want. So I created this system and I put it into Excel format. And it said date and which day, and the time, and which department in the hospital, and who's the doctor, and which taxi, which car company we are calling, and the time we go and the time we come back. Because there are many people in my city, in Taipei, they need this kind of service to go back and forth from the hospital through a certain kind of service from the government. They provide this drive that could have very cheap price to pick you up at home and drive you to the hospital and drive you back. And this is very, many people needs it. So every time when we call, it's all full line and it's hard to get into the line. So gradually I developed this system of when should I call in to make an appointment of exact the timing that I want the car to pick us up. So now I'm sharing the system that I'm working on and created regarding the caretaker of my mom's situation. Yes. So every time, the earliest time that I can book the car is 1 month ago. Say, I can explain this chart. If I want to go to the hospital on September 3rd, let me take this. If I want to go to the hospital on October 8th, I should call it on September 8th at 8:00 a.m. So that's 1 month earlier, and I need to, the office hour open at 8:30, so we should call it exactly even before 8:30, or we will lose the chance, the opportunity to make an appointment with the car, which I need it to come. So after this schedule is setting up, my father's little sister, one of my aunt, she take over this task. She said, Jialing, no worry, I can call like every week. Don't worry about calling the car. So this part, she took over, so that relieved part of my concern. And there, as you can see, there are red and green part. And it's divided by either it's about rehabilitation or it's about visiting the doctor. For the rehabilitation, it's a kind of a routine. Seems like a routine, but you need someone very, very careful to examine the progress of my mom, so she could report to the doctor for her rehabilitation. So my younger sister, she took over these, and the red part is visiting the doctors, and my father said he wanted to do that. And I used the red because every time, before this chart was black and white, my father would always read it over again and ask me every time, who should come today, who should come today? And I was very upset because I already did this and we discussed about that, and how come you always not remember? So I Google it and look for what kind of color that elder people is more sensitive to. So I used the red for my father, then she took over the red part. Because of the system is running like is divided into very small pieces, it kind of make it opportunity for me to step back and to give this precious progress to someone else, so that people can share the burden of mine and I could give myself a break. So that's about the system. During this process, there's one thing that I became very sensitive about, is I gradually aware that every time I wake up in the morning, there is something I can do better. Is there something I can do better? Is there something that I can do better for my mom? And this kind of thoughts kind of shape invisible wall between me and whoever cared about my mom, because I was so intense about whoever judged this presence that I created everybody or anyone who has doubt or who wants to point at something not good enough to me, I will get very hurt. And one of the examples is my aunt. Is the third sister of my mother. And she is 70 and close to 80 right now. And there is one time she came. It's after a while that we just set up my mother's room, and she came and she said that could her bed move it closer to the window so that she can see the sunshine. And I said to her, Auntie, we've discussed in my family with my father, with my brother, with my sister, with many people, discussed about a lot of possibilities. And it's about 24 hours concern that how the caregiver ladies, the girls, how their life is, how do they adjust to my mom's life, and my mom likes to look at the wall because there are pictures of her family, and if you put that close to the window, maybe when it's shiny, it will burn her. It will burn. And I described like very patiently, but she didn't hear. She just said, "It's very simple to just move the bed toward the window." Then I pissed off. and then when she came back home, I called her and I expressed my anger a little bit. And she, "Hi, Marco, please come in." And she got very hurt because she couldn't get why I'm angry. So it's not this kind of communication. It's kind of. And after that, I thought about her. What made my aunt, because we're pretty close actually, and she shared some stories about herself previously. Why make her so cruel? Why make her so tough that she even save one single word of appreciate other people's efforts? Why make her so like this as a way to show her concern to other people? Then there's a story pop up in my mind. My aunt used to tell me that when she was in school, I think in 20 something, there was a flood in Xinhua, Tainan, in her hometown, and there's a flood in front of her house, and the water was running very quick, and when she came back home, it's scary, like water. And she saw a piece of wood. It seems like somebody used to cross it, and he or she put it to help other people to cross the street, the creek. Yeah. And she told me that at that moment, when she wondered how she crossed it, she saw her father, my grandfather, at the other side of the creek, and just look at her. Just look at her, and no words. And she, after some moment, she got it that her father wanted her to figure out the way to cross the creek by herself. And I think she said to me that this is an experience that she hold it in her mind and in her heart. And since that is a very vivid memory, and even affect her perspective of life. And no matter what happened, you need to figure out the way by yourself, and nobody could help you. In September 14, I sat over there, the green chair right behind Marco. I sat there and Chloe wandered in this room, and she asked me, what are you doing? And I said, I'm drawing this pink because the reason I'm here is trying to create a distance from my mother. And she's very far away, and I'm here. By creating this distance, I can give myself a space to recollect what's happening during the past 3 years. So I could have a breath, and I could have space for myself to see the past. And I told Chloe that behind you, that 3 pink papers is what I draw, because this morning I mean September 14th, because this morning I think of the color pink, so I just want to draw the pink. And Chloe said, well, you are so far away from your mom, but by remembering this pink, you still bring my mom here. I said, yeah. So should I? Then I said, okay, now I don't want to give myself another task by saying to myself, I don't want to bring my mom here. If I bring her here, I just let it be there, just embrace it. If sometime, at some point, she left, then I let it left. Then Chloe told me a word, expose. What does that mean, Chloe? And she said, it's kind of like exhausted. When you exhausted these thoughts, maybe you will just disappear. During the conversation in September 14th, me and Chloe, I mentioned about the previous day. I went to the garden because I want to pick up the fig for my breakfast. And then I saw a little plant which is very I saw this little plants, and it reminds me of my grandparents' house. It reminds me of Sangshen in my grandparents' house. The house is already flattened. No house, no trees, only two coconut trees. But within these big lands, those two trees become very lonely. The land and the house was sold out many, many years ago since my grandparents died. It was sold to somebody else, even though all the daughters, including my mom and her sisters, were cry a lot and say no a lot, but it's not their choice, and they don't have the authority to stop it, because the land and the house was inherited by my uncle, which is my mother's elder brother. And in traditional Taiwanese, their tradition, the house and the land was inherited by the son. So it seems for me there was a desire to, as a bridge, to connect my mom, who is on the bed, and connect where she was not able to go, which is her homeland. So even though I was here, it seems that the whole garden reminds me of the garden of my grandparents' house. And I saw this and I said, it's Sangshen. Oh, it's the same as my grandparents' garden. And I used to pick it up like my grandmother did. And I've heard my aunt said that grandma used to use this to make jam. Yeah. And then as I talk about this, Chloe brought up a question. Maybe okay. Because she brought up an example, and I'm glad Chloe is here, because if I was wrong, please correct me. She said that her uncle, there was a kind of disease that's created by a certain kind of bug. And one time, Chloe's uncle was bitten by a bug in Taipei, and he was afraid that, maybe I got infected. And Chloe brought up a question that really touched me. She said that this bug, which is heard that make infection, is in French. And the test for testing if you are infected is made in America. And actually, her uncle was bit in Taipei. So how do you make sure these three things are the same? How you can make sure that this is the Sangshen that you are talking about? So I sent a message in our group and asked, what is it? And I remember Paula says, Mora. And somebody else says it's blackberry. And I Google it. Yes, it is not Sangshen. I was a little bit disappointed because my imagination or my dream or my fantasy was broken, but at the same time I felt, yes, maybe it is time for me to have another approach to see my past, not only the fantasy or imagination, not only desire or not only my feelings or emotion, but also I have another tool, which like science or knowledge, yeah, to have another approach to see my past. That's what I was thinking during our conversation. And Chloe said, "Hey, did you see the blue spot on the window?" And at that time I was sitting here for a couple of days, but it's the first time that I see the blue spots through her eyes. So through somebody else's eyes, I can see, through this eye, I can see again my past. I can see again inside myself. I can appreciate others' perspective, how they see me. After I show this little clip, this process to Rodrigo, the next day we were on the dining table, which is after dinner, I guess, where we have 5 people there, and Rodrigo showed this word to me, and he said that's how he responded to what he saw the previous day.
Resiliencia is this when some kind of people are under so much pressure, and they have to face the adversity against a lot of kind of problems, emotional problems, or even the health. And this person she has this ability, I think. It's very difficult to find that kind of ability in other people, but it's very important. Mainly because the suffer can occur every time or every moment, and these kind of people are very strong in their mind. So I think that could be a key or a door that you can explore. Yeah. Talking to your work, and I don't know, maybe. Thank you. That's a good way to show.
During the process of me taking care of my mom, there's one thing that I feel that I experienced that I want to share is about my dad. Because my dad, I shared before that how much I put my efforts and set up the system for this healthcare, and after the system is going steady, my father would say like, oh, is the conditioner like, can I adjust it a little bit? Oh, and can we put this comforter higher a little bit? And I will stop him, I will stop him, I will stop him, I will stop him, because I don't want him again to have authority over my mother, especially you were not involved in setting up this, but when everything is steady, you want to touch this, you want to touch that, you want to touch this, and I always say, no, stop, put your hands off, it's my world. And so again, I feel this process, at the one hand, it seems I'm thinking about doing good about my mom, but at the same time, I need to push people away, people who want to say this wrong or that wrong, or this is not good enough, or that I don't want this kind of words again in this system. I remember one time when my mother, she could still be on the wheelchair and go somewhere else. There's one time that she lied on the bed, and my father told him, she wanted to go to a wedding of a friend's daughter, and she wanted to go, but she needs somebody to help. And my father, he approached her. The gap of the height was like this kind of, and he approached her very close, and she said, please don't go, please don't go, please don't go, because I love you so much, and if you go, I worry about you, I worry about you fall down, I worry about everything, so please don't go. And I was pissed off right over there. I said, stop, I will go with her, I will go with her. And during these 3 years, I felt myself trying so hard to put my father's hand away from this, and I cleaned her room, I set up the system of how people co-work each other, especially for her caregivers. And I would even, I kind of, The idea of making the house clean is as strong as when I look back, is as strong as the force that I started a man to cut his penis of a man.
Circumcised.
Castrate.
Castrate.
Yes. So I will repeat it again for myself. The idea of clean the house is like I circus my father's authority over my mother.
There is one end of the room where it is almost intact, and there, when the cross lights fade and the low sun shines directly upon it, I can almost fancy radiation after all. The interminable grotesques seem to form around a common center and rush off in headlong plunges of equal distraction. It makes me tired to follow it. I will take a nap, I guess. I don't know why I should write this. I don't want to. Don't feel able. And I know John would think it absurd, but I must say what I feel and think in some way. It is such a relief. But the effort is getting to be greater than the relief. Half the time now I'm awfully lazy and lie down ever so much. John says I mustn't lose my strength and has me take cod liver oil and lots of tonics and things, to say nothing of ale and wine and rare meat. Dear John, he loves me so dearly and hates to have me sick. I tried to have a real, earnest, reasonable talk with him the other day and tell him how I wish he would let me go and make a visit to Cousin Henry and Julia. But he said I wasn't able to go, nor able to stand it after I got there. And I did not make out a very good case for myself, for I was crying before I had finished. It is getting to be a great effort for me to think straight. Just this nervous weakness, I suppose. And dear John gathered me up in his arms and just carried me upstairs and laid me on the bed and sat by me and read to me till it tired my head.
The selfishness or unselfishness of an action is to be determined objectively. It is not determined by the feelings of the person who acts, just as feelings are not a tool of cognition, so they are not a criterion in ethics. Obviously, in order to act, one has to be moved by some personal motive. One has to want, in some sense, to perform the action. The issue of an action's selfishness or unselfishness depends not on whether or not one wants to perform it, but on why one wants to perform it. By what standard was the action chosen? To achieve what goal? If a man proclaimed that he felt he would best benefit others by robbing and murdering them, men would not be willing to grant that his actions were altruistic. By the same logic and for the same reasons, if a man pursues a course of blind self-destruction, his feeling that he has something to gain by it does not establish his actions as selfish. If motivated solely by a sense of charity, compassion, duty, or altruism, a person renounces a value, desire, or goal in favor of the pleasure, wishes, or needs of another person whom he values less than the thing he renounced. That is an act of self-sacrifice. The fact that a person may feel that he wants to do it does not make his action selfish or establish objectively that he is its beneficiary.
And that's my little story for today. And thank you so much for coming. And if you are willing to stay, I'm more than welcome. I have more stories to tell you. Or if you want to start a conversation, want to say something, you could do.